Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Full Moon Fridays here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. Hit that like and subscribe button for the 5 people out there watching these shows. Hit that like and subscribe and make sure you get notified every 2 weeks when we put up another glorious episode talking about killer puppets. I am joined once again by my Swedish friend, Borp.
Hello, it's an honor to be here.
And my American friend, Steve.
Yeah, it's an honor. I concur with Borp.
It's something. It's something. We keep putting ourselves through this. We are working our way slowly but surely through the entire Puppet Master franchise. I don't know how many we've watched so far.
We are in the home stretch. I think because we're adding demonic toys, it's 15 movies, and today we're covering movie 12. We're in the home stretch.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, 12 movies we've watched already? That's wild. So yeah, tonight we are going to be talking about a movie that I guess it's fairly recent. Popped up, let me see, I guess 2022.
2022?
Yeah, it was when it came out. Dr. Death. Now, I will admit, I didn't even remember the Dr. Death puppet when we sort of realized that there was this movie out there. I was like, who? I think on the last episode I had to ask, like, who's Dr. Death? Like, when did we actually see them? And Steve, I believe you said it was in Retro Puppet Master was the one and only time we've seen Dr. Death. So for some reason, Charles Band decided it would be a good idea to make kind of like a weird spin-off movie about this particular puppet that nobody remembers. And it was actually directed by Dave Parker, which I was kind of shocked by when I saw. Dave Parker, and Borp might know this, I don't think Steve would. Borp, have you ever seen a movie called The Hills Run Red?
I have seen that movie.
He directed that movie. So this is directed by the same guy who directed The Hills Run Red. And the reason why I mention that is I was actually going to re-watch The Hills Run Red because I remember liking it back when I watched. I think it came out in 2009. I remember enjoying it. And I was going to revisit it to see if I was going to turn it into a Forgotten Horrors episode to see does it hold up and is it worth watching again. So I was actually kind of stunned when I saw that he was a director on this. So yeah, Steve, we're talking Dr. Death. There's some questions as to where this falls in the timeline, correct?
Yes, we'll get to it. We'll just according to the official chronological movie order on the Puppet Master wiki, this takes place between 2 and 4, which we didn't know at the time, so we watched it after 4 and 5. Does it actually take place between 2 and 4? I have no idea. We'll discuss the reasons why some people say it does when we get to the end. It could take place pretty much any time because all of the things that actually put a date on this movie were apparently removed. So it could happen. It could be the first fucking movie in the chronological order for all I know.
So, I mean, I guess for our purposes, since we are watching these in chronological order, we will just go ahead and say that it falls after episode 5.
Yeah,
That
sure.
way we don't feel like we botched this whole project that we're working on watching them in chronological order. Now, Borp, you were not super hot on part 5. You were a little higher in part 4. Part 5 starts going downhill. How you feeling going into Dr. Death?
I was expecting to hate this movie considering it's the latest one, right? And I thought the last spin-off we watched was absolutely dreadful. Was that Blade?
Yeah, the Iron
whatever
Cross.
that one was called. Yeah. Right. And that really felt like sort of a continuation of the Axis trilogy, which has been by far the worst ones, in my opinion. So I mean, it's all relative, right? If this was just a random horror movie podcast, I would say this movie was completely awful. But because it's in this context of discussing these movies, I'll say I was pleasantly surprised. It was also rather short. It was a breezy watch.
Yeah, it's less than an hour. I think it's 59 minutes or something.
And there's like 2 or 3 minutes of opening credits and 2 or 3 minutes of ending credits and 2 or 3 minutes of flashback. So there's really only like 50 minutes of new movie here.
Yeah, a lot of recycled puppet master footage from the old films, as is the tradition of all of these movies. Steve, how were you feeling going into Doctor Death? Were you excited to see this one, or were you
Oh,
kind of like dreading it?
I I I was curious like what the tone was going to be because I mean I was dreading it. Like I did not expect this to be good at all, and I was correct in that assumption. But I was like, Doctor Death was only in Retro Puppet Master, or the puppets were good guys. Doctor Death
Hmm.
is a puppet that has only ever been a good guy. So I was like, what is he going to be a good guy again? Like, I mean, what little bit I saw, going into this movie looked like they were going to make him a bad guy. So I was like, okay, well that's weird. They did like the opposite of what they've done with all the other puppets. So I was real curious about what the tone was going to be. Was Doctor Death going to be good guy, bad guy? Is he killing innocent people? Is he killing, I don't know, modern day Nazis? Um, that's what I was curious about, but I expected it to be hot garbage. So I was not
Okay.
excited whatsoever.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be hot garbage, and I think my opinions bore that out when I watched it
Yeah.
last night. But let's talk about it, Steve. Walk us through Doctor
Wait,
Death.
I have two questions
Okay.
before we start.
Oh, okay.
Okay, since you guys know more about Puppet Master than me, um, do we know why this movie is so short? Is it just like because they can push it to streaming now and they can get away with that?
Very interesting. Almost all of the new full moon movies that are coming out are like at 60 minutes or less. And I thought that was very strange. Like if you go to Tubi and you start popping up all of the modern Puppet Master movies,
Hmm.
they are anywhere from like 45 to 60 minutes long. Now I don't know if that is like a budget issue. Like Charles Band, Full Moon just doesn't have the money to pad out another 20-25 minutes onto a film to make it that traditional feature, but that is a trend I've seen. Don't ask me
Okay.
why. I don't know the exact
Okay.
reason.
Fascinating. I'm guessing it's like they don't have to hit that 74
Yeah,
minutes
I'm
or whatever.
assuming
Yeah,
that they have figured out that they can write the script for one movie and then just cut it in half and get
Yeah, like Baby
double the
Oopsie.
pennies off of Tubi. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like
Baby
Baby
Oopsie.
Oopsie. Yeah, for
Like
sure.
Baby Oopsie 2 and 3 are clearly one movie that they just divided in half at like, the midway point.
And I know like Charles Band because Full Moon has their own streaming service as well. And I know at one
right.
point he was like chopping up films and putting them like 15-minute sort of segments and releasing them as like episodes, kind of like it's a TV show. Like he films a movie and then chops it into 10-minute spots and releases it, once a week as like a TV show
Okay.
sort of thing.
That's really fascinating because some of these movies are available on YouTube, and there's like so many ads. It's like impossible to watch it on YouTube because they're like put the maximum amount of ads on them. So like you have
Yeah.
to watch it with an ad blocker, otherwise it's impossible. Okay, that makes sense. Second question: why Doctor Death? Why not any other puppet?
Where's my Jester movie, god damn it? Charles Band, where's my fucking Jester movie? Like
Or you
nobody.
can assume that in every standalone Puppet Master movie, Jester is just off screen sitting there
Mhm.
not doing anything. Like what
Well,
would a Jester movie even be? Do you
you know
want
what? Do I need
75
to write
minutes
one?
of him sitting on a dresser?
That's not what I want, Steve. And you know that's not what I want. I will write a Jester movie. Charles Band, if you send me an email, outpostunknown@gmail.com, I will write you a 60-minute Jester movie that you can then film to make me happy. Just make me happy. No one gives a shit about Dr. Death. I can understand like a standalone Blade movie. Blade's one of the most popular puppets. I totally get that. But Dr. Death, I had forgotten this was even
Yeah,
a puppet. It makes no sense to me why you would pick this.
I don't know. It just seems like bad business. Like if we're just gonna look at them like business, like
It's true.
Span obviously does. Like there's so many other puppets that people actually like that you can make a standalone movie of. You own those rights. Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
I mean,
All right,
They
all right.
tried to make a standalone Leech Woman movie, and it just apparently fell through, like got canceled or something. So I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know.
Leech Woman tweeted some racist things.
Probably.
Leech Woman was canceled.
Yeah.
Poor Leech
All
Woman.
right, okay, we can get into this now.
All right. Well, there's not much to talk about. This is a movie that is incredibly light on plot while also wanting you to think that there's actually like a ton of plot. It is like bizarre the things it does to try to like trick you into thinking that this is actually like some like deep, well written movie. But we'll get into that towards the end. The movie is about an old folks home and like the orderlies that attend to these old people. The movie starts with this old man having visions of flashbacks to like World War II, and then his visions transition to like a human-sized version of like the Doctor Death puppet operating on him, and then he wakes up and has a heart attack and dies. And so the next day we meet our main character, who is April, and she is like the new like nurse slash orderly slash caretaker for these old people.
At
Uh,
Shady Oaks Retirement Center, I think, or
something
something.
something like that. Yeah,
Shady
it's an old
Oaks.
folks home. And so like the first like I don't know 20 minutes of the movie, maybe 30 minutes. It's only an hour long, and like the first like 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, I feel like are just like introducing the characters. So April's the main character. We meet the three other like caretakers. There's like Ryan, who is the good guy, Flynn, who's the douchebag guy, and Jennifer, who is the person who did not have the no nudity clause. And
I
then
can't believe you remember the names of these characters.
well,
That's impressive. It was like Flynn. Who the fuck is Flynn?
well, that's the limit because
Well,
after that we have
okay.
like there's two like boss slash manager characters, and I don't remember their names. It's
Mm,
like the male boss and the female boss, and I do not remember their names whatsoever. And then there's four other like residents who I don't remember their names. They all are given like a character trait, and that is the extent of their character development. So there's an old woman who had a stroke and can't communicate, and she is the kleptomaniac, so she steals from people. There is like the old rich man who pays Jennifer to have sex with him. There is a hard of hearing
So
man.
weird.
It is very
this mo-
strange.
I know I said this about a lot of these movies, but this movie takes place in an old folks' home, and it's weirdly horny. I just needed to say that.
Yeah.
I just like okay,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. There's a lot of horniness in the movie. So there's the old rich guy that pays Jennifer to sleep with him. There's a hard of hearing guy. And that's the entirety of his character is he's deaf or just about. And then there's a woman who I'm sure Borp appreciates this. She is psychic because they can't not have a puppet
Yeah.
master movie without psychics. And so she does a lot of
Integral.
paintings.
Integral to the franchise.
She also
Mm.
paints, and so like the first time you meet her, she has painted a picture of April the new girl, and April's like, "How did you know what I look like?" And Jennifer's like, "I don't know, maybe she is psychic." They just move on. Like that's why I mean like this movie wants you to think that it actually has like writing and character development, but what it actually has is every character is assigned one character trait, and that is all they are for the rest of the movie. Uh,
This is something that stood out to me as well with the kleptomaniac woman who it's kind of interesting, or it's kind of like a clever setup for the puppet to move around and for them to think, oh, she's just stealing this puppet, like that. Okay, sure, yeah, cool, do that. But the way it's handled, it's like right before she's introduced, she's like, oh, by the way, she's a kleptomaniac, and then they walk into a room, and then the puppet's there, and it's like, oh, you stole the puppet. And it's like, God damn it! Like you're so close to doing this. But yeah.
but no,
That's a
that's
good
it. So
observation. Yeah.
the first thing the first thing you get after all this introduction is April is the old guy that died in the beginning. I remember his name. His name is Max. And April is told go clean Max's room because like he has no like living relatives. We're just gonna pack up all his shit and like sell it or donate it or toss it. And so they're packing up his room and they find like it looks like a treasure chest that has been buried but is just sitting in his house. And it's a cool looking prop.
The prop looks awesome.
I
Yeah.
refuse to believe that they made this for this movie. This like Matt, like scan the vast library of full moon knowledge in your head. I guarantee this chest came from another movie.
Had
Uh
to. Maybe it's one of the more
Yeah.
recent movies though, because I don't remember seeing it. It seems like it should come out like a Killer Pirate movie or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way they had this custom made for this movie. It is either from an old movie or they made it for an upcoming movie and they're like, hey, let's
Mhm.
use it for Doctor Death. Anyways,
Yeah.
Doctor Death is in this chest, and Flynn is like, oh cool, I'm just gonna take this. This is my puppet now. So this is a part like Flynn is like the douchebag dude bro guy. He also like just takes things from the old people that have died, and everyone just lets him get away with it. So he's just like, this is my puppet now. And so Flynn carries the puppet around with him, and then from this point on, the puppet is now up and about and able to kill people. And so, like Borp said, like the first time you see the puppet after that, it's in like the kleptomaniac's room, and she's freaking out, like she can't talk, she's had a stroke, so she's just like making noises and pointing off to the corner at the puppet, and everyone's like, oh, how dare you? How dare you steal this puppet? Shame on you. And she's clearly trying to communicate. No, like the puppet just fucking, the puppet was just there, but they don't believe her. Um, then Doctor Death starts killing people. He kills the kleptomaniac by she has to wear like an air mask, and so he pulls off, like, he basically cuts off her air supply, and she dies. And then he kills, like, the puppet kills like the coroner or whoever does like autopsies, on-site
Yeah.
autopsies on these people. And then like just weird things start happening. Like April looks out the window one day and sees the corpse of the kleptomaniac lady like walking around, and she screams and passes out. And and everyone's telling her, oh, it was dark, there was lightning, you basically you imagined it. And then like in comes like female boss, and she's like, oh, I was just about to tell you guys that we just got a call from the cops, and like the kleptomaniac woman's like body is missing. And so everyone's like, oh shit, like maybe you did see her, like was she actually dead, like what's going on? uh I don't know. Then Flynn gets the this is just like
I don't know.
this movie like wants you to think that like things are happening, but it's just like a random collection of like mini like scenes to get to the next scene. So like after that, like Flynn gets attacked by Doctor Death and the corpse woman, and then they find or April's like, I think Flynn is killing people. Like she just has this idea in her head, like Flynn, Flynn likes to rob people or take, dig through their belongings after they're dead. Like, what if he's, killing people just so he can like take all the old people's belongings? And so they break into his locker, and then they go to his car, and they find his body. He's alive. Like he gets stabbed in the head with like a little like handheld garden rake or something, and you think he's dead, but he actually just got like put in the trunk of his car. And
Called
is
subversion of expectations
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Well, he's alive long enough just to say, "Oh, like Mrs. Kleptomaniac did this to me," and then does he die again, or do they just leave him in the car? Like I don't know.
Uh,
Like what
do we
happens
know
to
what
him?
happened to him?
I
I don't.
don't. This is one of the interesting things about this movie because I watched it last night. I was chatting about it in the Discord, and like this morning, like I don't really remember much about it. It's one of those films that you just you take in, and unless you're Steve with a bear trap of a
Mhm.
mind for every detail, it's like, what the fuck did happen? Because you don't care about any of these characters at
Yeah,
all,
but even like
and it's just
I remember what I saw on screen, but there's like no connective tissue throughout the movie to provide context to anything that you're seeing. It's just like this happens, and then that happens, and then this happens, and then somehow that led to that. Like there,
I,
nothing
sorry.
flows.
According to the Puppet Master wiki, Flynn later dies. I don't know if we actually see that, but
I don't
someone.
remember seeing it on screen.
Yeah, I don't know if we
I
can.
remember them finding him in the trunk of his car, alive, saying that Mrs. Kleptomaniac's corpse did this. Or I think he might also say the puppet did this, and then we just never see him again. But at this point, like the
Yeah.
crew, who was just like April and Ryan, who's like the non douchebag guy, they go into the old folks' home because they know, okay, something funky is going on. Like people are being murdered. So we get Jennifer, who the filmmakers cash in on her on the fact that she does not have a no nudity clause. She takes her top off, shows her tits. She goes to bang the old horny guy, and
So weird.
old horny guy is just dead. Like Doctor Death is just in his crotch. And at first, like she gave him a like a Viagra, and then leaves for 30 minutes and comes back. And when she comes back, like his body is like covered head to toe, and she thinks, "Oh, he's playing peekaboo." And then Doctor Death stands up at crotch level, and she thinks he's got this giant, like fucking 18-inch horse cock. And then she's like, "Oh, what do you got going on there?" And she lifts the sheet back, and of course, the horny guy is dead, and it's just Doctor Death standing there. Doctor Death kills her. April and Ryan split up.
Slices her throat.
Yes, Doctor Death slices her throat. At some point in all of this, like the female boss has also like encountered zombie kleptomaniac lady, and so it's like female boss lady and April and Ryan, and they all three split up to find let's save whoever we can save. And so um, Ryan runs off, and basically everyone finds everyone else dead. So the artist psychic lady has had like a bunch of paintbrushes stabbed into her head. The deaf guy is just got hit in the head with a golf club. The only like I guess interesting kill is the male boss. His head has been skinned, so it's just like an exposed skull, and because he's wearing like a doctor's coat, he now looks like a human-sized Doctor Death. And it gets up and attacks female boss and kills her, and then attacks April and Ryan, and they beat him down. Like I think April hits him with like a defib unit and shocks him to death. Um, and so Ryan, this incredibly intelligent man, goes to like listen to his heartbeat and gets stabbed in the neck. And then the male boss stands up, and what you find out is Doctor Death is inside his body, like pulling on, I guess, like nerve endings to like he's
It's
basically
so
like
stupid.
he's like piloting this.
He's puppeteering him.
Yeah, he's puppeteering. He's like piloting this dead guy as like a man suit to any. So it's Doctor Death inside of a human body who's had its head skinned so it looks like a human-sized Doctor Death, and it's going to kill April. And April just goes, "Stop! I'm your great great granddaughter. I've come to help you find all of your puppet friends." And so we get a flashback to Retro Puppet Master. And so like one of like the movie that came out like 25 years ago, the guy was named Duval, and he was the guy who was puppeteering the original Dr. Death puppet who got killed and had his soul transferred into the Dr. Death puppet. April's like, "Yeah, I know who you really are. I am your great great granddaughter. I am here to help you find. I'm here to take you away, and we're gonna find all of your other puppet friends." And then we get this. This is what I mean why this movie wants you to think there's more plot than there actually is. At the end of every Saw movie where you get the twist, and it starts showing like the flashbacks to all the scenes earlier in the movie, and it shows you all of the clues that you missed to who the killer really is or who Jigsaw's accomplice really is. It does that. This movie
It does.
fucking does that.
Yep.
It starts showing you all of the flashbacks that were supposed to somehow let you know that April wasn't what she was meant to be. But it's just stupid shit. It's just flashbacks. It's just April going, "Oh yes, I'm here to find a long lost family member," or her reading a book about puppets. It's just like it. I mean, Saw is a stupid franchise, but it works for Saw because like there is like a mystery element built into Saw. There was no mystery here. Like April, like at no point were you ever meant to think that April is like in any way connected to this puppet. It's just like it tries to make you think there is a plot here when there is not. And that's how the movie ends. It's just April staring into the screen. "I'm your great great granddaughter," and then we roll credits. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I was confused at the end of it because I was like, this is a movie that needs to go on like another 20 minutes. Like you were talking about Borp, like,
Right.
why are these things so short? This needed to be another 20, 25 minutes. I want to see like what's going on. I don't want to wait for Doctor Death 2 to figure out. And there's never going to be a Doctor Death 2. We know that. They're never going to make one of these. They're just going to let it go. And this was, and Steve, you had mentioned that maybe on the wiki or something was saying that this was supposed to be kind of like between 2 and 4 when
Yes.
they go search for Camille, because at the end of part 2 Camille is like now the puppet, and she takes the puppet on their little traveling
Yeah.
thing, and they're
The
supposed to go
original, and
find
I
them.
think they actually filmed that. I didn't look at it, but according to the wiki, like it links to an Instagram post that might actually have the original ending for this movie. But yes,
Oh,
like
okay.
the original ending was they go look for Camille's puppet show, and so that's why fans say this takes place between 2 and 4. But that got cut, and so who knows where it takes place now.
I wonder why. I wonder why it got
Yeah,
cut.
that's
Why
very
was it
strange.
cut? Why is
Yeah.
Doctor Death, who has the soul of this innocent puppeteer that was always a good guy, now murdering people and like puppeteering them as human suits? Why is his great granddaughter suddenly here? Why is anything in this movie happening? It's just, why is there a stupid Saw-esque flashback when there was never a mystery to figure out in this film? It's
There's
just
long stretches of this
Yeah.
fucking
movie too
stupid.
where Doctor Death doesn't appear. Because I remember watching it last night, and I posted a comment I'm like, where's the puppet? Like there are long stretches of this where you get no puppet. I would actually like. I'd be curious. I'm not going to do this because this would be insane, but I'd be curious to actually go and see how much screen time the puppets have in each one of these movies. Like actual screen time, because I would venture to guess Dr. Death himself, the puppet, is in this movie less than 5 minutes
Oh, it's
total of
got to
what you
be.
For
see
sure. For sure.
him on screen. And I wonder if you could actually get to a feature length Puppet Master movie, just adding up all of the screen time the puppets have been in all of these
Puppet
movies, if
Master
it would
series,
even.
but just the good parts, and it's all just the puppets.
Yeah, I'd be very, very curious because even the ones that we like, the puppets aren't in it a whole lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, this just felt, just for me personally, going back to kind of what Borb said at the beginning, like why? Like, why was this made? Was anybody asking for this? Did anybody want this? And to Borp's other point, it makes no sense business wise why you would do this. Like, if Charles Band's just trying to make a quick buck, he's like, all right, I'm going to make a 60-minute movie here with a puppet. Why not use a very recognizable puppet? Pinhead or Jester, or make another Blade movie, or whatever, Six Shooter or somebody that the fans are like, oh sweet, yeah, one of the original puppets in their own standalone thing. I'm going to do that. Why make Doctor Death?
It only
I
makes
don't get it.
sense if this is the first in a series that brings back all the retro puppets, but it's been 2 years now, and as far as I can tell, there is no like whisperings of future movies, and this can't have taken more than like a week to film. Like this is
No.
so like low rent. This had to be super quick. This
That's the other interesting thing about this is, Charles Band bought that big mansion in Cleveland, I think, and they pretty much film all of the new Full Moon movies at that mansion. It's just a location now that they use. I wouldn't be surprised if Shady Oaks is actually just the interior of this mansion that he bought. And so I think he even bought a church as well. Like he bought all this like decrepit properties in Cleveland for super super cheap to move out of California because it was too expensive to film in California. So he's shooting all this stuff on his property. But like you said, it would take a week. Why not just film another one of these real quick? Like why would you make a movie like this not intending to make a sequel to explain? And even if they made a sequel, or they go and they find Camille's traveling sort of puppet show, Dr. Death isn't in 4. He's not in 5. So Dr. Death has to, at some of that story's got to end with Dr. Death being removed from the equation somehow. Maybe that's why they took out all those references, because they're kind of like, oh, reminds me of Madam Web, right? Madam Web, they filmed all this Spider-Man stuff, and then when they went to put out, they're like, actually, we have to remove all the Spider-Man stuff because it makes no fucking sense if we put it in here like this, and it's just going to cause more problems continuity wise. But at this point, who gives a fuck about
Yeah,
canon or
they
continuity?
they've
It
they've
doesn't matter.
never once cared about continuity with Puppet Master prior to this. Why should they start now?
I wonder if there's like a director's commentary on the Blu-ray of this.
Well, you order it and let us know because I am not paying money for this.
I'm gonna look
I
that up.
watched this with an ad blocker, so I didn't even give Charles Band
Mhm.
3 cents to go through this movie.
Wow. Okay. Borp, your thoughts on this one? You said you kind of liked it
I
better
mean,
than 5.
I, I, hmm. maybe not better than 5.
You're
But
you're
if I
allowed to
compare,
change your mind, by the way. You
yeah,
can
no,
say I was wrong. After hearing Steve recap this, I
no, 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 no,
realize the error of my
no, no.
ways.
Like there is a part of me that kind of enjoyed the. I mean, it's gonna sound whatever. I'm going to use the word ambition. I'm using that very lightly, but compare it to like the Axis trilogy or that Blade spin-off. I feel like there is at least some effort put in here to like evoke the earlier movies, where like I enjoyed some of these death sequences where like they have the puppet running around off screen, and there's the first one where it's like a woman, she's laying in bed, and you see the POV from the puppet first, and then she's laying in bed, she's noticing something going on, and we switch to her POV, and you see a door opening. So it's like no puppetry is going on here, but we can tell that stuff is going on, and that stuff really like kind of reminded me of those earlier movies where they didn't have the well, they never had a ton of budget, but like it was harder to do stuff with the puppets. um but then you actually get to the part where they show the puppet, and it looks like the worst the puppets have ever looked. It's like there's no emoting, nothing. And so I feel like this is a movie that like almost gets there in the sort of elements where that's like key to this franchise. But then they like tack on this like weird twist at the end, and as soon as she says that, like, I am your long lost granddaughter, I'm like, oh shit, did I miss something? And then they flash back, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I picked up on all this stuff, but
It just
I,
it was
it's just,
pointless.
yeah, exactly. It's pointless. And that's another thing where it's like, okay, it feels like someone went in here with a little bit of ambition and wanted to do something, but whatever got in the way, if that was their budget, talent, whatever. So that's the only reason why I'm saying like I enjoyed this a little bit more than the other later entries. But this was bad. This was bad. This was really bad.
They're so
Of course it's bad.
it's just so nonsensical. I mean, we're talking about a fucking like living puppet movie, but like even if you like really invest in this stupid twist, because like one of the first things that April says when she's just hanging out and getting to know the other like caretakers is, oh yes, I'm here to look for a long lost relative. And so they kind of pay that off at the end by saying, oh, I'm your great great granddaughter or whatever. But that, I mean, so then she knows that her great great grandpa is like a killer puppet. Why does she then like faint when she sees like the corpse of the lady running around? Why is she scared of the puppet at all? There are multiple instances where the puppet's just there and she has the opportunity to just like pick it up. Like, why was there the need for this like subterfuge that she's going through? Like, she could have just been like, "Hey, puppet, yoink," and that's the end of the movie. It's just like this movie wants you to think that she had this like crazy like 4D chess plot to get access to the puppet, but at any time she could have just picked up the puppet and left and like, hey grandpa, how's it going? It's just, oh
Hmm.
guys, it's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I will point out that they recycle the greatest hits of Richard Band's various Full Moon scores. You've got Subspecies score in here. You got the original Puppet Master. You got Reanimator score is in this. So it's like they're not even taking. I by the way, I looked up James Quinn as a writer. Is the only movie he's ever written according to IMDb.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just not that great of a screenwriter yet,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he'll get
yeah,
there. He'll get there. You know, he'll
Yeah.
learn from
In
his
Doctor
mistakes
Death
on this.
too,
yeah.
they'll make this make sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll never watch this again. I thought it was pretty bad. I can barely even remember most of it. I just watched it last night. So disappointing, I think. What's on tap next, Steve? What's next in our journey here?
We're doing something different. We are going back to the 90s and possibly quality question mark. So the next movie in like the Puppet Master series, because we're going to end with the clip show because that pretty much has to be the last in the series because it chronicles everything that came before it. And before that, we're doing Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys. Well, before we get there, I want to watch Demonic Toys. So the next
Okay.
up, we are watching Demonic Toys. There will be no puppets. It's just going to be Baby Oopsie and Jack Attack and the Grizzly Bear doll and whatnot. So that's
Yeah.
it. Demonic Toys. I'm excited. I remember liking Demonic Toys, but I also have not watched it in 30 years. I have no idea how well it holds up, if at all.
I had no idea Demonic Toys and Baby Oopsie were connected.
Yep.
Yep.
He's
Baby
the
Oopsie
Baby
is one of
Oopsie
the main
is the
characters in Demonic
blade
Toys.
All right.
of Demonic Toys.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So
a,
this is gonna send me down another dark path. You're
Oh
telling me.
yeah, after all, God, Borp, you wait till we gotta watch Doll Man, because then there's Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. It's gonna be great.
Fuck
yeah.
is Doll Man?
Oh, you're in
Doll
for a
Man.
treat.
Borp. This is why we do Full Moon Fridays, Borp. So we
Okay.
can introduce you to all of this stuff. And that's the
Okay.
thing. This is a full. I mean, the MCU has nothing on Charles Band's universe, Borp. Charles Band has been doing this sort of crossover stuff for 40 years at this point in time. I mean, so yeah, we got all kinds of interesting stuff
Okay.
We
to
have
get to.
such shit sites to show you.
Yeah. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to watch Demonic Toys. Like Steve, I remember liking it in the 90s. I remember having the comic books for it. I think Eternity was the publisher of those comics. Maybe I'll pull one out for the show to show everyone. But yeah, Demonic Toys. I always like Puppet Master better, but I also like the Demonic Toys, and I always wondered why the Demonic Toys didn't have a giant franchise like Puppet Master, because they haven't been in a ton of stuff over the
Well,
years.
they're trying now. It took them 30 years to get there, but now there's
Yeah.
3 Baby Oopsies plus a standalone Jack Attack, right?
Is there a standalone Jack Attack?
I
I'm
think
not
so.
sure.
I feel like they
Okay.
took another they picked another Demonic Toy after the Baby Oopsie standalone franchise, and now they're running with it. So maybe we'll get there someday on Full Moon Fridays.
Yeah, we should also watch Doll Graveyard. That's another killer doll / puppet movie that I think they wanted to make a franchise, but it didn't come together as well as they hoped. People weren't into those dolls as much. So we'll watch doll. We got all kinds of doll movies. It'll never end.
You could just be making these movies up. I have no idea.